Hi, it's Kevin Lobates here, and this is a follow-up to yesterday's post because I've been having an interesting discussion with Andy Martin about what blockchain brings to building a view of truth and veracity of data. And I think I've got to the bottom of what our initial disagreement was about, which is that we were talking about two slightly different things. I was talking about how naive people who don't really understand what blockchain does sometimes come away with the thought that it magically makes data true, that you can only write true data onto a blockchain, and that if they're a little bit more sophisticated, they maybe have a concept that trying to write false data to a blockchain will get rejected. However, the actual story of what's going on, I think, is a lot more complicated. Andy, I think, was focusing more on how blockchain gives us this amazing extra tool in order to collaboratively agree on what we accept as the truth. And so I'm going to back up a bit and talk some philosophy now. Back when I was doing my PhD, one of the things that I was looking at in depth was what is mathematical proof and what is proving actually all about. And this relates to the concept of truth. And in particular, I was looking at the work of a guy called Imre Lakatos, who wrote a book, Proofs and Refutations, which is highly readable. So if you've got a spare weekend, I recommend you have a look at it. And Lakatos did for mathematics what Karl Popper did for science, namely postulate an idea that we can't actually determine truth. All we can do is determine whether something is a hypothesis that is not yet proven false. So that kind of puts me in what is called the social relativist or social constructivist camp. And I think that area of philosophy has some very interesting applications in blockchain, because blockchain is also about a society, the blockchain members, building a common view of what the truth is. And I don't think there is an absolute truth out there that we as human beings can ever tap into, so it becomes kind of a meaningless question. What we can do, however, is determine that things are wrong and then reject them, and that's what proving in mathematics ultimately is all about. And if you look at the history of mathematics and the history of science, you'll see myriads of examples where things were thought to be true, and then through analysis we determined that no, actually that's either not the whole story or that they were actually totally false. And I think that blockchain in the business and commercial space offers a similar kind of tool. So Andy's absolutely right. It gives us a way of automating some of the processes that have previously required either a central authority or some kind of manual intervention, and that we've got a platform that actually allows us to effectively crowdsource an accepted view of whether data is valid or not. And the question of whether the data is actually sort of extrinsically true is, I think, a meaningless one. As long as all the parties are happy with what's going on, then that's all well and good, and we can just get on with business as usual. However, if some of the parties disagree, a blockchain gives you an extra lever in order to pry out false data and make sure that what remains has more value. So I think Andy's absolutely right that blockchain is a remarkable advance in technology, and we're only just starting to scratch the surface of what it's able to offer us. And part of the reason why this process is so slow is because it does actually involve a shift in a perspective of how things can be done. And these things are never easy. When a new innovation comes along, it takes people a while to latch onto what it's actually providing, and that's the area in which I'm trying to help by coming up with analogies that allow you to kind of get a foothold onto the rock face of what is blockchain that we're trying to scale and get to the top of. So thanks for your input, Andy. I really appreciate it. And you know, one of the things I like about LinkedIn, and particularly the community that I find myself in, is that we're actually generally able to have a discussion about things, and thereby everybody finds that their knowledge and education is advanced. And I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.